Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be reviewing Corrupt WR's gameplay. So you can see his Twitch right in the top left here, Corrupt WR. I'll link it in the description. If I end up forgetting to link it in the description, remind me in like a comment and I'll add it later. But yeah, he is the best Nyla in NA, probably the best, if not one of the best Zeds in NA as well. In my opinion, the best jungler overall in NA in terms of like ranked. You know, there's a difference between solo queue slash ranked and like, you know, competitive 5v5. But in terms of like ranked, I don't really see a player better than him when it comes to just carrying solo queue and duo queue games. And so I thought, you know, we'd review a couple of his games. We're going to review 2 of his games, and I'm mainly going to talk about the things he does differently compared to what I do, so you guys can kind of see, you know, the difference between me, who's like, I'm a decent jungler, you know, but I play every role. I don't just always main this role, and I'm just overall not as good as him. He is really, really good at jungle, and I've watched 7 hours of this stream here. I went through I skipped through, I didn't literally watch 7 straight hours, but like I skipped through all the, you know, to the important parts and watched 7 hours worth of games, basically looking at his decision making. And I want to talk about a lot of the main things he does every game. We're going to watch him play more of a late game jungler in Nyla, who is, you know, the best late game jungler. And honestly, I think if you're as good as Corrupt, Nyla is just the best jungler in the game. And then we're going to talk also about a Hecarim game, which is a bit of a, you know, early mid-game champ who still scales well, but like who has more early game agency, and we'll kind of show you the difference in how he plays. So you can already see his jungle clear here. We won't skip through it, so if you guys are looking to play Nyla, you can watch how he does this jungle clear and kind of practice it the same way. I pretty much always see him start blue for the most part. It's pretty rare that I see him start red on most champs. I'm guessing that's just because it's faster overall, you know, that type of thing, because the blue is typically a bit faster for most champions, but honestly not. In my opinion, you know, sometimes there's games where you want to start red side, and there's games where I'll see him start red side, but definitely blue side is the most common thing that we'll see him start here. And then I noticed pretty much every game, I don't even know if I saw him do something different between 7 hours worth of games. He will almost always 6 camp clear, do all of his camps, and then the main difference between how I'll often do it and how he will is usually for me, I'm doing 6 camps. I'm immediately going scuttle because I want to get level 5. Most of the time, he looks for a bottom side gank after 6 camps. So, like, he'll do these 6 camps. He'll be looking at the lane. And then if he sees, even when he's on his Krugs here, like if he sees an opportunity to gank, he'll get off of the Krugs. And he'll be okay with getting the Krugs a little bit later in order to possibly get a gank. So like one of the main things that I see him do, again, that a lot of higher level junglers, and especially myself, don't do as much, is he's totally willing to sometimes sacrifice like 1 camp and that type of thing in order to get the possibility of completely breaking open the game. Because like if you guys have ever played ranked against Corrupt, you'll see like there's a lot of times where your top laner loses his turret at like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and it's usually because he's willing to look for a gank opportunity, and then if he finds something on that gank opportunity, he will just go to the turret and just like completely destroy the turret. He'll stay around for multiple plates, and then he'll re-gank that lane like 1 or 2 minutes later and look for even more. So that's like one of the main things, is he's looking for that gank opportunity after he's done 5 camps. When he's on his 6th camp, he's always looking for that. And then in this type of situation where he has a losing laner, like look what he does as well. He goes and covers the lane because you're gonna lose like this wave anyways, and so he kind of pressures the enemy off so they don't get as many plates, and he gets a little bit of golden XP from the minions. And oftentimes if his like top laner was dead for even longer, for example, he would stick around even longer and get that entire wave, you know. So he's really, really good about covering lanes compared to a lot of players, where he'll break open the game with those ganks. He'll make sure to cover the lane, grab the extra lane gold, and then you're going to see past 7 minutes and 30 seconds, he does a really good job of farming the gold that his teammates leave. And then here's another thing where he is okay with skipping a camp for a possible kill in some situations. So like when I'm coaching a lot of people, I'll tell people, don't skip camps, make sure you're being efficient, don't worry about your teammates. And I think this is a very good general rule to follow in most of the time, because if you still watch most of his games, he's usually going to be very efficient, he's usually going to farm. But there's going to be certain games where maybe he has 1 camp, like he has a blue buff here. And in this case, he's going to be fine with skipping the blue buff real quick in order to possibly go for a gank when he sees a very likely opportunity. Because here, he sees everyone fighting, the wave is pushing under the turret, so there's a very likely chance of something happening. His mid laner's rotated, and so he knows there's a very likely chance that something big happens here. And that means that he can create, you know, potentially like a game-winning scenario where he gets a kill or 2 onto even a late-game champion like Nyla, and potentially kind of gets a lot out of it. So again, he's okay with skipping those types of things, because then if he ends up, you know, not finding anything out of it, he's still going to have these camps spawning now. So he skipped one camp, but these camps are spawning on red side, and then he can go right back to blue right after. And you see how he doesn't waste time. Like, the difference between, and one of the main reasons I will tell a lot of people, like, don't skip those camps, is because they don't understand when the fight is actually going to work and when it's not. And so you saw there, like, he noticed very quickly it's not actually going to work out, but you just saw that, like, 5-second window where he was looking for it. And that's really the difference, I would say, between like what I'm telling people to do and how I play the game compared to him. Is he's looking for these additional opportunities to get just that little extra bit of gold. Where even here, for example, all he did, very simple, was right before he would go back to his red side, he just quickly looked and saw that these camps were up on the red side of the enemy. And all he had to do was go over the blue side wall really quick. He could look for a possible gank on Orianna. If Orianna overextended, he takes 2 seconds to go look at this camp. If this camp is up, which again he probably understands from jungle tracking, I wasn't paying attention specifically to why he would know it's up in this case, but in most cases just this type of thing. So he must know he started opposite side of the jungler, so he knows jungler started red side. He started his red side as well, so he looks at his camps, he sees his red's about to spawn, he knows the enemy red's about to spawn, and usually when your red's about to spawn, the rest of your map is going to spawn. So that's why he knew he had this brief window where he could possibly get it. And then here again, you see Xin Zhao. Maybe he spotted Xin Zhao earlier on the map. Again, I didn't notice for sure, but then he sees Xin Zhao bot side, so he knows he can continue to invade the rest of his red side here, just because Xin Zhao is overextending. And then this gives him an opportunity to possibly even get a top side gank off or to get something going. So again, a thing I probably would have done as a player who, again, isn't as good as him, I probably would have just straight up went for my red side right away. But he noticed this opportunity where the enemy jungler wasn't in the proper position, so he could get that invade off, which then gives him a possibility of a gank angle. Now, in terms of gold, like, Xin Zhao invaded his red side, so it's pretty equal for the most part. But he gets an extra camp compared to Xin Zhao, and he's, again, 3,400 gold as a Nyla at this point in the game is really, really good. Obviously, Nyla is a very weak early game champion, so he just takes advantage of those like brief opportunities that you see where, again, he'll play more for those lanes in certain scenarios while still maintaining efficiency. So again, if I was playing this game, and you guys have probably watched me, watch my videos, I would have already cleared my red buff. I would have done it in a very, more like sequence manner where it's just like, as straightforward as possible. And what I tell you guys to do works really well in most elos, in all elos really. I mean, I've climbed to Sovereign doing this, right? And it's very effective, but it's not min-maxing, in finding every single opportunity to like break open a game. Whereas what he's doing, again, he cleared most of his red side, then he went back to blue side, cleared his blue side, but then he went to look for that quick invade gank angle, and then again he still gets back to his red buff just in time, where he's still there right before the dragon's going to spawn. But if you watch me, I'm usually setting up like 20-15 seconds beforehand for an objective. He's okay with being more like 5-10 seconds before the objective because he knows that he's going to squeeze an additional little bit of gold, and he really values that extra gold. And if you look at his stats, his Nyla stats this season are 28-5 in terms of his record, and he has 1144 GPM. So like, he is absolutely the most efficient jungler I've ever seen. He is min-maxing every amount of gold he can get, and that includes the lanes. He's taking really good advantage of those lanes. So even here, just covering a simple mid lane, herald drop is enough for him to possibly find a kill angle, which he uses the herald to, use his dash to get onto the enemy. And so he's always covering, again, wherever the enemy might be making a play. He's going to, instead of instantly doing his Raptors, for example, here, he first covers that mid lane because he knows, obviously, they drop Herald, there's going to be a mid lane play. I'm going to look for that, see if I can do anything. And then what does he do as soon as the play works out? He immediately goes back to farming. So he's still getting these camps really efficiently, but he's just squeezing those brief periods of time, squeezing a bit more gold out of that. So that's definitely one of the main things you can see from his early game. But again, he's still 0-0-1, and it's not like he's like insanely fed, but he is obviously a late game Nyla, so he doesn't need to be super fed early game. He just needs to be farming efficient and stay kind of on the pace of the game. And then, we'll see what he does later in the game, which really allows him to kind of just accelerate himself super far compared to the rest of his team. And this is even in games where like his team's not doing insanely well. I mean, like his team is losing lanes overall. Like, it's not like anything's going super well. And we still kind of see that. But yeah, again, like that focus on the waves and just like that brief time where he's taking a bit more time to look for a gank, look for an invade angle before he goes back to farming. And so he's kind of becoming technically like a little less efficient in terms of, farming all of his camps as soon as they spawn. But he's being more efficient in the sense that he's giving himself an opportunity to possibly break open the game. And then now we're getting to the point in the game where you get extra gold from waves in 30 seconds. And you can see again, like, instead of immediately running to go farm his jungle, he has nothing up. He might as well go through a lane and look for a possible gank angle. So this is, again, another thing he does really well. He's just taking advantage of this, like, again, 15-second window before his red buff spawns, before he can do anything, to look for a gank. And oftentimes, his ganks don't result in kills, is another thing I've noticed. Like, it's not like every single gank he does, he's just looking for a kill. In a lot of these situations, he's just looking to force out cooldowns. So, like, he forces out a flash, or he forces out an ultimate, or something like that. And then here, again, you can see he takes advantage of the fact that it hits 730, he tries to get gold from that wave, and then he's in a position to follow up on his team. And before he goes back to farming, he can look for some type of angle to fight and just get that additional little bit of gold. But he's not going to overextend if the fight ends up looking bad. He's like very smart about when he can actually fight, when he can't. And a lot of that comes down to champion knowledge, which is why I recommend, you know, you guys spam your champions a bunch and you really only play a couple champs, because then you know exactly every scenario where you can fight or you can't fight. But again, you just see he's constantly dragging his camera to the enemy as well. So like, he's always aware of what's going on in the other lanes, looking for that to make sure he knows if he should skip a camp, if he should get off of it, rather than just only sticking on his camps, and that's all he does. And then this is where you see he starts taking advantage of waves. So like, he goes through mid wave right away because he knows he's the most valuable member of his team. He's a Nyla with a Yuumi. He's scaling really well. And so instead of letting his Galio, who's probably not going to do a lot with the gold given the fact that his team's 2-8, and it's a Galio, you know, he goes and he immediately gets that gold. And then what does he do after? He goes for a bot wave. So he's just immediately after this looking for the bot wave. So he's always looking for that wave gold as well, especially past 730. And then what this allows him to do as well is take advantage of gold bounties, because you can see, because his team is down a lot, gold bounties are up. And so another thing people tell me is like, well, Talon, when you play this style, because this is kind of how I tell people to play in mid lane as well, very selfish. Sometimes your teammates will randomly get mad at you in int, and we saw Misfortune get mad in ult for no reason. And when this happens, if you end up carrying hard enough, they're usually going to try winning anyways, because they'll realize, okay, I need to get carried. Like, he has the 0-4 Misfortune, I think is what she is right now, or that's a Garen, I don't know, but the Misfortune's not doing well. It really doesn't matter, you know, like, if they're going to run it down and they're going to try to steal your camps, they're going to do whatever. If you're just continuing to play efficiently, value this gold. Even notice here, he tries to take the gold from his Garen again. Like, he is taking the wave gold directly from his teammates because he knows, like, he is the carry. And he's going to be able to carry these types of games. If he ended up letting his Garen, letting his Misfortune get all of that gold, nothing would happen. They wouldn't win because, you know, the Misfortune has clearly proven they're probably not the best player. They're probably not really going to do much. So trusting himself with that gold is definitely the way to take advantage of a lot more. And so we can see here again, look what he ended up doing to get just so much additional gold in a game where his team is doing awful and he's super behind. He was on that bot wave where Misfortune ended up ulting, stealing the wave. Then he gets a camp. I believe it was red side, right? He got a camp. Then he goes all the way to top side, gets another wave, gets his blue side camp, now is going mid wave. You can just see he's getting literally gold from all three parts of the map in like a 1 minute time span. While still farming all of his camps, and then looking for an invade as well. And why does he look for the invade? It makes sense because here you see one person bot side, the dragon spawning soon, so the enemy are probably going to set up for the dragon, and he has nothing else to do, so he might as well go and see if there's anything he can get, which then allows him to hit his item, so then he can recall for item. And then where does he go? He doesn't go and contest dragon. His team's 2-10. They're never going to win the dragon. Instead, he goes top side. He gets this additional gold from the wave, and then he's, you know, again, his teammates are trying to FF. He's duo with the Yuumi, by the way. He does duo very often with, like, I'll see him duo with a lot of enchanters, and I'll also see him duo a lot of times with, like, some type of tank to kind of help him carry pretty hard. But he'll duo with, you know, a variety of different types of people. But here he's duo with the Yuumi, I think. And so this kind of allows him also to carry a bit better. And then you see he's just looking for that one opportunity where he can find some type of kill. And it works out very well because he's really strong since he's farmed really efficiently. But because he is a late game or an early game to mid game Nyla, you can see he still doesn't quite have the damage to fully kill them. But then he finds a nice opportunity there. And all it really takes is 1 or 2 times where the enemy kind of int into him, and all of a sudden he's going to have by far the most gold. So we look right now. I want to show the scoreboard currently. But we can see this is usually kind of how it goes when he's playing Nyla. Is like the scoreboard will look something like this, where early to mid game, it's not like he's like got an insane amount of gold. Okay, here we go. So he's at 9k gold. If we look at the rest of the enemy, who are, again, the enemy are 6k gold ahead of him as a team, and he has 9k gold. Pretty much everyone else on the enemy team is slightly below, but close to 9k gold. And you can see the rest of his team is not even close. And this is like, if you have ever played against Corrupt, this is the feeling I have. There's so many games I'm up like 5k gold against this guy at this time period in the game, and then all of a sudden he randomly has 14,000 gold. 2 minutes later, and the game ends. Like, it's insane. And again, you can see the reason is because of all this gold he's taking advantage of from these different waves, getting these waves pushed. His stream does lag sometimes. He has bad internet, I think, so a little unfortunate, but either way, it's mostly good here. And again, what does he do 44 seconds before Baron spawns? He's going for this wave. Like, he's valuing the wave, he's valuing another wave, and he's even going up further and just continuing to take advantage of waves and gold bounties. So even though the Baron's about to spawn, he knows, like, okay, if they do Baron, I'm not going to really get any value from the Baron. Instead, I'm going to take advantage of this possible pick I can get on bot side. I'm going to get myself more accelerated, and I'm literally going to give up Baron. Like, he's straight up giving up Baron at this point if the enemy wanted to do it, because he's playing around the gold bounties, because gold bounties are super OP for coming back. He knows that's really going to be the way he's actually going to come back in the game. And all he needs is, again, that one opportunity where the enemy int into him and he's just going to one-shot them all. So even though, you know, the enemy got the Baron, they were down 6k gold before, and now they're only down 4k gold because he got the kill in Orianna, his teammate got the mid lane turret, all of that type of stuff. Now, obviously, if he was closer to even in gold, he wouldn't just give up a Baron, right? So as I typically tell you guys, when you're a jungler, at 12 minutes, you need to make sure you're on the Baron side of the map. That's 100% true, and if you watch Corrupt play, he's not going to give up Barons frequently. This is a rare case where he's so far behind, and he knows there's no chance they're going to win if he, you know, goes and contests the Baron. So he's going to go for opposite side in this case just to get something. And then this is a really important thing to note as well. So what are people typically going to do with the Baron? They're going to push waves. So what's he looking for? He's looking to stop a push on a certain side of the map before it even starts, before the enemy are able to group up, before they're all together, so that he can create a numbers advantage and not, you know, lose a bunch on the Baron. So what does he do? He goes and camps a bush in the side lane where he knows one of his teammates are. He takes advantage of getting that wave pushed out because of the fact that he doesn't want to lose, you know, or doesn't want it to get pushed further. And then through this, he's able to create a kill opportunity onto the Darius, and then you can see he's looking for even more here potentially, and he's zoning off 3 people of the enemy team whilst already killing one of them, and they have the Baron. And then again, he's just making this insane outplay where he just gets a triple kill, and it's like it literally didn't matter that the enemy had the Baron because he was completely aware of what they would be doing with the Baron, which is pushing out their side lane waves right after they got it, and he's farming up efficiently enough by going on the opposite side, by taking advantage of all of these different waves where he's super fed now. Like, at this point in the game, this is exactly, you know, the time of the game that I'm telling you guys about, where Corrupt all of a sudden has 1 million gold, and it feels like it just happened randomly. Like, he was just at 9,000 gold, and now he's probably 12, 13,000. I didn't see. Pulls up the scoreboard. He's at 14,000 gold. He was just like 2 minutes ago at 9,000 gold. Now he's at 14,000 gold. Literally 5,000 gold swing in 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it was. And again, it's because of all these things we talk about. And now he hits his 4 item mark with a Yuumi on him, and you no longer can play the game. And so again, you just see these little things he's doing, which, like, again, a player like me would not do, that get additional gold for him. Like, for example, if it was me in this game, would I do a lot of the similar things in the first 10 minutes? For the most part, yeah, and it probably would be relatively similar. I don't play Nyla, but if I did play Nyla, you know, maybe the first 10 minutes might be similar. But then you watch, you know, this next 5-minute mark, this is where he ends up coming back in so many of these games, where he's taking advantage of that, like, you know, period of time where I probably would have contested Baron. I wouldn't have wanted the enemy to get a random Baron. I would have thought that's the best chance, but he just knows that's not when we're going to come back. We're going to find a different comeback angle, which is going to be after they get the Baron, when they get cocky. And now all of a sudden he finds another random triple kill angle. And, you know, playing Nyla at this point, once you have a Yuumi on you with 4 items, this isn't the hard part. Most of you guys can probably do this if you play a little bit of Nyla. The hard part is everything leading up to this that we talked about. And now here again, what's he doing? Instead of prioritizing that objective, he's going for the waves because he knows, obviously, we need to take advantage of the fact that the enemy are dead. To get as much push as possible so that we have the pressure on the lane, so that if we get the Baron or something, we can end the game, that type of thing. And now he's just recalling, and all of a sudden he's full build. He's going for the Trinity Force. His typical build, by the way: Bloodthirster, Navori, Mortal Reminder, Infinity Edge, and then he'll either go Trinity or some type of defensive item, you know, depending on the game. But yeah, that's usually the build. Obviously go like a Stasis or a QSS, depending on what you need. And then yeah, at this point, I mean, there's not much more to talk about. Like, we'll see. You know, he's just gonna go to a fight and he's gonna kill them all, because that's usually what he does. He's pretty good at killing people, so, you know, definitely stay away from Corrupt if you ever see him. He's very scary. And then like, Nyla's insane, by the way, as well. Like, this champ is not balanced. Like, look, the damage is so crazy. But again, the reason that it works out so well is because of how well he farms. Because, like, I played against a different Nyla player yesterday as well, after having played against Corrupt a lot. And the difference is insane. It's like, it was a good player too. Like, it's not a bad player that I was playing against, but if you just compare the difference, it's like you play against that player, you're feeling like, okay, he's probably going to do well, he's going to be hard to play against, but we can beat him. But then you play against Corrupt Nyla, and you know, like, he's going to have 14,000 gold in 14 minutes, and there's just no way we can play, and then all of a sudden the game's going to end, even though you're up 10k gold. He gets the Baron, and the game ends. So again, to reiterate, the main things from the Nyla game, playing a late game champion, he's really, really good about playing around those waves. After he does the 6 camp clear, he looks for that initial gank to see if he can get anything out of it, even if he's just blowing an enemy flash or getting them a bit lower to give his laners an advantage. That small little help that he does is a big thing that I don't really do much, where I'm just going straight to the scuttle, and taking advantage of that small window of time is important, but you got to make sure not to overstay there, where you just look for it briefly, and when the window of opportunity closes, you immediately go back to farming, where again, he'll take advantage of those small times where maybe he'll skip a camp to quickly look for a gank, but he'll go right back to his farming after looking for that, and that type of thing. And then obviously utilizing waves to make sure that you can get yourself accelerated in the mid game, even if you're taking gold from your teammates. If you're playing a late game champion like Nyla, that's totally fine. And then again, you know, once he finds the opportunity to come back, he's not going to just go for some random play when he's not strong. He's going to make sure he gets to his items, even if he has to give up a Baron sometimes or a Dragon Soul, and then he's going to find that one opportunity to come back, and then you know, you pretty much saw what happens. And this is what happens in a lot of his games, where he is losing and then comes back with Nyla. So that is overall how he plays kind of Nyla, how he plays these late game champions. Now let's go into Hecarim. All right, so here we have him on a Hecarim. So it's a bit more of an early game champion. I mean, Hecarim's not like super early game, but has more gank, you know, potential, right? Like Hecarim can get good ganks off, has the opportunity to snowball the early game. And that's what you're going to see here. Like, he's going to snowball a lot harder. So the first game, we really showed you how to play the late game. You saw especially that like 10 to 15 minute window, you know, from 10 to 15 minutes, where he does go from pretty normal gold that most Sovereign junglers would have to going to, you know, accelerating the game to some insane extent that like most people just do not do. And that window of time is something you can take advantage of, but you have to do those types of things that you saw him do, that we obviously spoke about. But now here we have much more of an early game here. So again, he's going to ward his red side, he's going to go blue. Again, he starts blue almost every time, I notice, on junglers, which I think is just like, again, the efficiency thing. And so he starts his blue side here, pretty straightforward. What's he going to do? He's going to 6 camp. Actually, I'll show you guys the clear, just because I know some people do want to see how to clear on the champ. So if you're trying to copy Corrupt champ pool, I'll let you guys see the clear. We don't need to skip through it just in this case, because yeah, sometimes, you know, people want to see how junglers do it more efficiently, that type of thing. Nothing crazy here, you know, it's pretty straightforward, I'm assuming here, right? Yeah, I mean, we pretty much see what he's doing. Like, he's not really doing anything insane, it's just kind of pretty straightforward. He'll put 2 points in his first ability as well, instead of going for third ability, level 3. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, overall, pretty straightforward clear. But what does he do? He does his 6 camp, and then what's he look for right after his 6 camps? He's looking for a gank. But we'll see, like, he's scrolling over to the lanes constantly, and this is something that you guys need to make sure you're doing, is scrolling to the lanes as much as you possibly can, so you can see what's going on, because then if he needs to quickly skip a camp or skip part of the camp, he's willing to do that. So you can see here, he's okay with skipping those 2 little small Krugs, because he realizes there's a gank opportunity where he can snowball the game. So what does he do? He immediately goes for the Kaisa. I think he ended up dashing onto a minion on accident, but he still gets a kill on her. And so that little thing, again, that is one of the biggest differences between Corrupt and I, and that is one of the biggest reasons why he's a much better jungler than me. I wouldn't skip those 2 little small things. I'd be greedy for the little baby Krugs, you know. I don't want them to feel left out. I don't want to feel like I only valued, you know, the bigger one. I don't think size matters that much, but clearly Corrupt does, and through that, he was already able to get a really easy kill. And then what's he doing right after? He's going for another drive-by kill, just looking for that brief period of time where he can find some type of kill. And then he's totally fine with just, like, the guy got away, I'm just going to zone him off by just standing here. Like, he's totally fine with that. He's not wasting an insane amount of time for every gank, but he just goes there and he looks, you know. He just goes to bot lane. He was looking for that gank. He saw that it looked pretty likely. Then he saw mid lane, looked pretty likely, but he doesn't overextend for it. It's just like, I'm going to go there, I'm going to look for it. It either works out right away or it doesn't. And you can see here again, he's already ganked the lane, impacted the lane, and his laners are 3 deaths. Like, you can see in all of these games that I'm showing you, it's not like he's, you know, popping off, or his teammates are popping off, rather. Like, he's having to hard carry. And you're going to see this game is a hard carry. Where, again, what does he do? This is kind of like one of the biggest times that he takes advantage of, again, is where he's cleared blue, or he's cleared Gromp, rather, and then he's cleared his other blue side camp. Wolves, I think is what they're called. And then instead of immediately going blue buff, he takes advantage of this time period to look for another gank. So again, what would I do here? I'd probably do my blue first, and then I would go look for a gank. But he sees this brief time period where he can get that gank off, and then he can right after go farm his Raptors and then do blues. So it's just a slightly less efficient sequence that he follows, but it allows him so many more gank opportunities where, again, I'll play most lanes or most early games. I'll get 2 gank opportunities off and I'll farm efficiently. I'll be good, you know, I'll be strong enough. I'll be fine. But he just gets those additional things off, which gives him 2 kills. Where if I'm playing this game, I would have 1 or 0 kills and I'd still be fine. But with a 0-4 team, you know, I probably wouldn't have the ability to carry. But for him, he does. And even when he's looking for a recall, he's just checking those lanes again, doing such a good job of paying attention to the lanes. He sees the enemy overextend in mid, and he gets another kill. So constantly paying attention to lanes is one of the biggest things you can take away. If you can take away any 2 things from this video, watching the difference between a decent jungler like myself and a really, really good jungler like Corrupt, he does a much better job of paying attention to lanes and really taking advantage of them overextending. And then he's also really good about farming waves in the mid game, as we saw with the Nyla game. And so this is this type of, you know, awareness that he has, where even again, instead of immediately going to his red buff, what's he doing? He's really paying attention to that bot lane, seeing if he can gank, and then he realizes, you know, maybe I can't, but oh, maybe I can. And he's kind of turning back, seeing if there's an opportunity. He's totally fine with, like, yeah, I lose a red buff or I don't get a red away, that's not a big deal. But if he has that opportunity to, again, get this easy kill off where then his support gets a nice stun off, he gets the kill, that's so much more valuable because it's also making his laner come back a bit, right? So again, this playstyle is harder to play as well than the thing I'm telling you guys, which is why, like, if you're autofill jungle or you're just trying to be okay at jungle, you don't always need to be taking advantage of every small situation like he is. But if you want to, you know, be the absolute best jungler, or you want to really hard carry 1v9 games, you feel like your games are just too hard to carry, you have to be doing these types of things. And so you see here, he literally has 6 kills early game. Like, I never get 6 kills early game. He has situations where this happens. Obviously, it's not his average game. He's not going to average 6 kills every 5 minutes, but like, he is having these games where sometimes he can snowball that hard. And again, it's largely due to the fact that he's paying such close attention to those lanes. He's willing to just give up a camp for 5 seconds. And then notice here, he goes and he values Herald. He realizes they're on the dragon. He's going to be kind of late there. Might as well just go grab the Herald. Easy snowball. He can drop it mid for a free turret as well. And it's just going to be a lot more valuable. And then again, he's looking at those lanes, trying to see if they're gankable, and quickly farming as well. He's still farming his camps very efficiently, but then he also finds those brief times where he can get some type of gank off. Here he has no mana because he doesn't have blue buff. So in that situation, you know, a little unfortunate, but he can just go farm his blue buff and he's pretty fine. And so again, he's 7-0 in 6 minutes, and his team is 1-8 if you don't count him, which is pretty hilarious. So even at this point, he's so strong, he knows he can kind of just look for invade, so he's pretty much just trying to see a random gank opportunity out here. And okay, I actually want to look through. I wasn't really paying attention to why he would know that. Maybe he's just guessing. No, he sees Shyvana here. Okay, so he saw Shyvana on the map. So this is, again, the really good map awareness that he has. He's constantly looking at his map. He sees Shyvana's really low here, and then he scrolls over briefly to Shyvana, and he probably sees, obviously I don't know, I'm not in his head, but he probably saw that she didn't have the red circle under him yet. And so the fact that Shyvana didn't have the red circle under her yet means that Shyvana hasn't farmed her red, which means he knows after Krugs, probably going to go to red. So what does he do? He immediately decides to go sprint there and kill her. So that is like amazing awareness. Again, another thing I'm probably never doing in my games. Really, really, really good awareness by him. He's looking at the health bar. He's looking at, do they have the red circle under them to have their red buff? Where are they going to be next? And he's taking advantage of the fact that they're being greedy. Whereas again, a lot of times I'm going to take the safe guaranteed play, and it's going to work out. I mean, obviously, again, I win a good amount on jungle. I can climb on it. But if you want to be able to absolutely 1v9 games, these are the types of things you got to do. And at this point now, pretty straightforward. He recalls. He makes sure to spend all his gold. And once again, he's looking already on the map. Where's the next kill going to happen? He sees a really low Darius with a pushing wave and a full health Corki. Obviously, that's a possible gank angle. So he's going to look for it. And he's trying to even squeeze that camp gold from it at the same time if he can. And then again here at this point, pretty straightforward how he plays the fight. Again, the things he does in the fights, like he has good mechanics, he plays fights well, but he's not doing anything crazy. Like you guys are watching, like you guys could all do this. You could click first ability, run at people, CC someone, like all these things are completely manageable. It's all of those decisions that he makes that are really leading to him just being in such a good spot. And he knows his limits of his champs very well. He knows when he can go in, when he can't. And then this is, again, what's he doing now that we're at the 730 mark? He's taking advantage of an additional wave so he can get that wave gold. Then again, looking towards mid, and as he drives by mid, he sees if he can get any kill, and then he can go to farm right after. And in this case, he's fed enough where, again, he's going to get the mid wave as you saw, and then he can look for the invade because of how fed he is. So he's just completely messing with the enemy jungle at this point because of how fed he is. They can't really do much about it at all. So you can see as well, like when he's snowballing a game, instead of just going and farming his red side camps or farming his own camps, he's making sure he can take advantage of initially pushing a wave and then using that wave prio to then go into the enemy jungle and rotate and kind of help his team out, that type of thing. Look for the invade and try to screw over the enemy jungle and all that. In this case, I think his teammates end up kind of dying, and so he just runs away. But even here, like, the efficiency is where he's trying to squeeze a red buff out of this situation, even when he saw, you know, he's getting chased into his jungle and he's pretty low, and he's also getting a bunch of healing off that, obviously, as well. So, again, his team's doing so bad here. Like, he has 12 kills, his team has 13 kills as a whole. Like, pretty crazy. But, yeah, we kind of see here again, he's 11k gold. Nobody else in the game is even 8k. I think Nas is like 8k barely. So he's pretty much just 3k plus ahead of everyone minimum. So now at this point, it's pretty straightforward how he's going to play a game when he is this fed. He's going to be able to take most fights because he's super strong. And this is definitely, I would say, one of the biggest like weaknesses of him. If we could call it a weakness, it's sometimes a strength, sometimes a weakness. When I'm playing against Corrupt, I always know there's a chance he does get super, super greedy and kind of go over aggressive and throw a game. Because he's so fed, he's farming so well that he feels like he can do anything, where here you saw he dives into 5 people and he kills 2 of them. But there's often times where he'll do this on certain champs, and then he ends up giving up a shutdown. And this is kind of one of the ways we can come back against him, is that little bit of over-aggression when he's super fed and when he's kind of like the main character of the game. And it's really hard to not throw ever when you're so fed and the rest of your team is behind. But that's kind of the one thing I noticed. Sometimes he'll go a bit too aggro in certain situations. But you see here the awareness to buy teleport because he knows there's going to be a fight at the objective and he's about to respawn. So he can possibly teleport in. But then I think he realizes that fight's not going to work. So I'm not going to teleport. What's he going to do instead? He's going to go and cover a lane, right? So making sure the enemy don't get additional turrets out of this, making sure they don't get additional gold, and simultaneously getting the wave gold himself allows him a free kill, denial of a turret, and then he gets to go and get another wave as well. So similar mid-game focus on the waves as we saw before, while still maintaining his efficiency on camps and constantly paying attention to all lanes to see who he can and can't gank. And again, this is really the difference between Corrupt and even the average like Sovereign jungler, right? The difference between, I would say, like low elo junglers and Sovereign / Challenger junglers is just efficiency. Like Sovereign Challenger junglers, they'll make sure to farm all their camps. They'll make sure they're at the objectives at the proper times. They'll make these basic decisions. They understand their champions well. But you see these differences with Corrupt compared to if you guys watch my gameplay, where, again, he's just taking advantage of those additional small windows, which is kind of what we constantly see, kind of what we've been talking about the entire video. Usually I try to focus my videos on a specific concept. So I would definitely say the 2 concepts to focus on if you're trying to learn from this are that additional paying attention to waves, maybe being okay with skipping a camp for a brief 5 or 10 second period, as long as you're going back to it after, you're not, being too inefficient. And then again, the mid-game waves, taking advantage of that from 8 minutes to 15 minutes, especially that type of time period. And even sometimes being okay with giving up Baron, like we saw in the Nyla game. That's going to be a more rare case where you're going to give up Baron, but every once in a while you're going to be so far behind, but you're a mega late game scaling champion where you can give up Baron. Now, Nyla is one of the few champs that can do that. Not that many champs can, but yeah. And then here, again, he's just so fed he can just run in, and this is not really anything too crazy, right? He goes in, he literally goes in on 5 people. He just spams his abilities as a normal Hecarim would do, and he's able to win the fight because he's farmed so well. He's done all these other things that leads to the fact that now, like, how can you kill this fed of a Hecarim? You just really can't. And so, again, they get the 2 kills. They get the Baron. They get it. Pretty straightforward. And I think they just pretty much end here at this point. Again, it's a pretty short game because of the fact that he snowballed so well, which is how we kind of see him playing. When he's playing an early game champ or when he gets a really good early lead, like when he plays Lee Sin, for example, we'll see kind of a similar thing. And then he ends the game. So that was Corrupt WR. Again, here's his Twitch in the top left, and I'll link it in the description as well, or maybe in a comment. We'll link it somewhere. And yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting for you guys to learn from a jungler who is better than me overall, who's just a really, really good player. Again, I would say he's the best jungler in NA in terms of like solo duo queue ranked type of stuff. You could just say there's others, there's a lot of good junglers. But yeah, I thought this was interesting. I thought that you guys could learn a decent amount from this. So let me know what you guys thought of the video. Let me know if you want me to maybe ask more people, if more high elo players, if I can watch their games or like get tips from them, that type of thing, if that's something that interests you. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do coaching for $25 an hour. Just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description if you're interested in that. And I'll see you in the next video.